episode 5 of Church Lady Knits. My name is Kristen, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Hook and Gauge. And the show notes for this podcast or videocast can be found at hookandgauge.blogspot.com. Today is Monday, January the 18th, 2016. If you're in the U.S., happy Martin Luther King Day. It is, of course, a day that we commemorate the work of Martin Luther King, and I think also recognize that there is still a lot of work to do. So go out and do an act of justice and kindness today. I hope you were all well. It was definitely not my intention to have this long of a break. I did film an episode in December, and due to technical difficulties could not get it off the iPad. So that was very unfortunate. And so it was one of those situations where I had to get it up that day, or it just wasn't going to happen. And so it didn't happen, which was kind of a bummer. But I hope you all had a great winter holiday, whether you celebrated Christmas or something else, and are having a great new year. I can't believe January is more than halfway finished. This year is going to fly by too. It's just absolutely nuts. So it is one of my resolutions this year to try my hardest to get as close to a bi-monthly podcast as possible. So 2 times a month. And I kind of have it written out in my planner as such. And due to some scheduling changes, I'm going to be able to go to knit night at my local yarn shop. So hopefully that'll kind of help bring some progress about. Sometimes I just don't have time to film, and other times it's just I haven't really gotten enough knitting or anything finished to show. So anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I hope that you are reasonably warm where you are. It is a beautiful day here in Raleigh. We've had some kind of yucky weather recently. It's very cold. I don't think we're going to get out of the 30s, which of course for us Southerners is kind of cold. And so it's sunny and the sky is clear, and it's just been a good day to be out walking. We had some snow yesterday morning. Of course, it didn't stick, but it was very exciting for all the kids at church. They came in, oh, it's snowing, Miss Kristen, have you seen the snow? It was very sweet. But it's just been kind of cold and wet for the past several days. So it's nice to sort of see a clear blue sky. That's really nice. So yeah, I hope you all are well and warm, and that you're having okay weather where you are, and if not, I hope it gets better for you. I'm drinking some tea today because, like I said, it is kind of on the cold side. I got some tea in my Christmas stocking, and this is Comfort and Joy tea by Republic of Tea, and I'm kind of bummed out because I really like it, but it's well past the holidays. I might still venture out later this afternoon and see if I can find it. But it is black tea, cinnamon, clove, licorice, and apple bits is the sort of description. And yeah, I really like this. And I'm kind of weird about flavored tea, as some of you probably know from past episodes. So to find a flavored tea that I like, it's really good. It's kind of like almost like an apple cider kind of tea. Very good, and you really don't even have to sweeten it. It's got, just a hint of sweetness. So that is quite yummy. So what's been going on? Well, I did go home to Texas for Christmas. We drove. When I say we, I mean me and my little dog. We drove. It's about 16 and a half hours to Texas, and then 16 and a half hours back. So we take the southern route. We cut down to Atlanta and get on 20, and then head all the way across to Dallas on 20. So a lot of interstate driving, and a lot of listening to audiobooks and podcasts. Going to Dallas, I listened to Holidays on Ice by David Sedaris, which is really kind of a wacky, funny conglomeration of all of his sort of holiday writings. It's not just Christmas, though I think the bulk of it is Christmas, but the first half are his, what he calls the Santaland Diaries, when he was an elf at Macy's in New York, worked as an elf, and it's hysterically funny and so ridiculous, as you could probably imagine. And then the second half of it is just sort of little vignettes from some of his books, little excerpts, and some of it's Easter stories and Halloween stories and some more Christmas stories and that kind of thing. But it's very funny, and it definitely makes the time go by a lot quicker, a lot more quickly. And the second thing I listened to, sort of on the last leg to Dallas, the second day, was Christopher Moore's The Stupidest Angel. I keep looking over here because I have show notes. I tried to film this yesterday, and it was so rambly, so I'm going to try not to ramble today. It was Christopher Moore's Stupidest Angel, and it is so wacky. I mean, I liked it, but I'm hesitant to recommend it because I think you sort of have to have, one, you have to be in the right mood for it, but two, it's a pretty wacky sense of humor that he has. The premise is it takes place in this little town of Pine Cove, California, and it's sort of like his author version of a Christmas special. So he brings in a lot of characters from his other books, and they all kind of converge in Pine Cove, and there are all these kind of like layers of plots. So you have all these different things that are happening with all these different people, and it's all so wacky. I mean, just crazy circumstances, and the whole thing culminates with Raziel, who's the angel from Lamb, the Gospel of Biff, according to Christ's childhood pal. That book, you get a sense of how strange his sense of humor is. So you take Raziel, and Raziel comes to Earth to perform a Christmas miracle, and he got the honor of doing that year. And he encounters a little boy, and the little boy apparently has seen Santa Claus get murdered, and he wants Raziel to bring Santa Claus back to life. And so Raziel goes out to the town graveyard, and instead of figuring out where Santa's buried, he just calls out over the graveyard, "Arise!" And of course ends up waking up the entire graveyard. So it's definitely funny. I wouldn't say it's gruesome, and honestly, like, I don't like zombie things, but that part of it kind of comes toward the end of the book, and it's very funny. The way he wrote it is just hysterically funny. Just the way he writes, or the characters of the undead is just, you're just thinking, oh my gosh, that's a very witty way of doing it. So anyway, but yeah, it's a great book, and I listened to the audiobook version, and the narrator was fabulous, and it was very engaging, which is what you want when you're driving 6 to 7 hours, in a stretch. So it was good. I really enjoyed it. And then coming back from Dallas, I binge listened to Paula Emmons-Feussle's podcast, Knitting Pipeline, which I have been so bad at keeping up with, and I just thoroughly enjoy her podcast. She has such a sort of a calm voice, and just a very calm sort of demeanor about her. So I listened to some of that. I listened to some Bakery Bears and some Amy Beth of Fat Squirrel Speaks, and so sort of did more knitting podcast kind of stuff on the way back. Just north of Greenville, South Carolina, so maybe like 2 hours out, maybe more than just north. I think like right when I got to the North Carolina border, I remembered that I had downloaded season 1 of the Serial podcast by Sarah Koenig. It was done, I think it was on NPR, I think is where a lot of people caught it. But and I just thought, I should just listen to this, and people keep saying it's good. Well, shoot, I wish I had known what it was about, like, because I didn't really know the premise of it, and I should have researched it. But it was fabulous, and I just thought, well, dang, I had enough of that, like, in terms of minutes runtime, that I could have just listened to that probably the whole way back on the second day of driving back to North Carolina. It was so engaging. If you've not listened to it, you definitely should, especially if you like kind of whodunit or kind of crime sort of mystery type things. It's a real story, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, but it's the real story of Adnan Syed, and sort of the circumstances surrounding his conviction in 2000 for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Heyman Lee. And I think the part that makes this really interesting is that they're high school students. Like, these are like 17, 18-year-olds. There's a lot of like weird circumstantial evidence, strange, stories that don't line up. Really fascinating. And I would highly recommend that. And then once you're done with that, you should, if you liked it, you should listen to the Undisclosed podcast, which is the same case that's being investigated by Rabia Chaudhry, who is a family friend of the Syeds, or of Adnan's, and but then 2 other unbiased lawyers, and it's phenomenal, the kinds of craziness surrounding that case. I mean, there are days I would listen to it, I would be thinking, what on earth was what were these people thinking? Like, what? I just don't understand how, even if he did it, which I don't know that he did, but even if Adnan did it, like, I just don't understand how he was convicted. Like, it's just that kind of like, what? So anyway, I don't think I gave a whole lot away, because there's just so much that's really, really fascinating to hear in that. So those were the two podcasts that I kind of got into toward the end of my trip. And they're very, very good. So I highly recommend them. It's good knitting fodder to listen to while you knit. And sort of the last podcast that just really recently, like in the last day or two, I kind of stumbled upon. One of my favorite authors is a woman named Emily Stimson. She's a Catholic writer. And she also has a blog called The Catholic Table. And the reason why I love her is because she's a single woman, but not for much longer. She just got engaged over the holidays. I think she's in her late 30s, if not early 40s. And she writes a lot about making a home and like entertaining and cooking and things that I think for a lot of us single people, we feel like we really can't do. Like, you talk about making a home, like I think about people with kids or people with families, and I, and that's something I so desperately want to do, but I often feel like, oh, well, I'm single, and I shouldn't, I love my home, and I love kind of how I've got it all set up and decorated, but I kind of also think like, oh, like it's not really a home, it's like, just an apartment, and it's nothing, but I mean, I take a lot of encouragement from her, because she's really into that sort of thing. So if that's something you're into, go check out her blog, which is thecatholictable.com. But anyway, the podcast I listened to is a podcast called Fountains of Carrots. And it's sort of a weird title, but they interview her, and it's a fascinating interview, and I loved listening to it. But it's two women. I think they have two blogs. One of them's like fountains, has something to do with fountains, and the other one has something to do with carrots. So when they combined for their podcast, they became Fountains of Carrots, which is kind of a cute, strange little title. But it was really good, and so I'm looking forward to listening to some of their other things and seeing who else they interview. And I should say that's kind of more of a Catholic Christian bent on that podcast, but it's still really interesting to listen to. So yeah, that is it kind of for podcasts and audiobooks. In terms of video casts or YouTube podcasts, I've been really into recently. Really gotten into Tiny Paper Foxes with Jenny and Devin and their cat Colin. That's been really, really good and interesting. I love sewing, and so it's been fun to kind of watch her sewing adventure, and she's sort of inspired me to get back to making some clothing. Because I have not done that in a long time, and I would love to do that again. And then, of course, the other one that I've just been listening to sort of ad nauseum recently has been Stitched in Sweden with Maria Monska. And I love that she's on a bread baking kick. I can completely relate to that. I think it's so fun. So I am really also looking forward to seeing what she does with her bread baking. So that's kind of my rambly introduction of things I've been listening to and watching recently. And so we should probably jump into the knitting. On my needles, I have 3 projects at the moment. One of which is sort of one that needs to be off my needles, but I just can't seem to get myself motivated to work on it. The first one is my Georgetown cardigan, which I've been working on for forever. And I think part of why I'm stalling is this is my first sweater. And you just kind of come to a point sometimes with projects where you're not entirely confident of your next step. And so it causes you to not really want to work on it. So I'm almost done with the body of the sweater. I have one sort of lapel, one side piece done. The back is done, and then I'm finishing this other side piece. I think I have like an inch left to knit on this other side piece. I just need to do it. Of course, I don't know if I mentioned, this is the Georgetown by Hannah Fettig from her Home and Away collection. And this is being worked up in some gifted yarn to me. This was gifted to me by a neighbor, and it is a Lion brand Wool Ease in the Forest Heather colorway. And I really like how it's working up. I will probably not machine wash it. It's now covered in corgi hair. I will probably not machine wash this. I'll probably still hand wash it because I think it does pill a little bit from what I've read. And so I want to try to minimize that as much as possible. But It's really pretty. I like the color. I just need to finish it. It's kind of a tealy, foresty green with some kind of gold hints. Um, but yeah, it's basically, I can't remember which worsted or which fingering weight cardigan she said it was like the big version of, but to me, it reminds me of the featherweight a little bit, in the sense that, it's going to have this really big ribbed lapel that goes around. So, anyway, my plan right now is once I finish this side, I'm going to soak it and very gently block the edges out so they don't curl. Um, so that way I can more easily pick up stitches. I did not do a slip stitched edge, so that's going to make it a little more challenging on some of the edges to figure out where I need to be picking up stitches, but I think I can figure it out. So that is my Georgetown. I'm making I guess like the adult small, the first number in the parentheses. I think it's for like a 34-inch bust. So, but that should be really nice and warm maybe for next year. So that's really nice. It's kind of fun. But yeah, so I think I'm a little nervous about seaming the shoulders for some reason and picking up the armhole stitches and all of that. But I'm hoping, it's my goal this week to at least get one of the arms picked up and start working on one of the arms. That's kind of where I want to get to with this sweater this week. But yeah, it's a really nice pattern. I'm doing the mostly seamless version, which is, I think if I were to do it again, I probably would do the seamed version, I think. But so far it's going well, so we'll just see. The next project I have was a new cast on this last week. I think I cast it on Wednesday, and worked on it pretty exclusively at knit night on Thursday. This is, let me see if I can get it opened up here. This is the Balsam Hollow Shawl by Paula Emmons-Feussle. Okay, I'm going to have to hold it kind of like this. This is from the Little Skein and the Big Wool kits from last November. And by last, I mean like 2014 November. So this is in the Green Gables colorway. It is Leading in Fiber Arts and the Callback base. I'll show you. I don't know that it matters which side at this point. So anyway, it's a really, I'm sort of on the garter portion. Of course, I'm holding it upside down so that way it has a little bit better drape. But it has a nice sort of like eyelet top border, and then of course the center stitch is flanked with yarn overs. So right now I'm in the garter portion, and next I will, once that's done, there's a lace border that's kind of got a leafy motif to it. So I'm really excited about that. I like the yarn. It is sort of a sport weight yarn, I believe is what it is, and it's knit up on size 7 needles. So it's a bit of a looser gauge. I don't know if you can even tell that. It's definitely a looser gauge, but it'll be interesting to see what this is like when I block it. I love sort of these tonal greens, and it's really interesting because it looks different kind of in different lights. In some lights it looks much darker and like jewel toned, like kind of emerald, and in other lights it kind of looks more light spring green. So it's really interesting, but I'm really enjoying that. Sorry, it's kind of awkward to hold up, but it's really squishy and kind of bouncy yarn. And of course I have it inside my Anne of Green Gables little skein bag. And that's so cute. I love this bag. I've used it for a number of things. But the thing that I was laughing to myself about as I was listening to Paula's podcast to Knitting Pipeline, as I was leaving Dallas, I had a chuckle to myself and thought, oh, it's probably a good thing I've not been listening to this, because they apparently re-released this kit where you could just get the pattern and the yarn in a Christmas colorway. I just thought, oh my gosh, I would have been in so much trouble if I had known. That was happening. So maybe it's a good thing, because then I would have felt really compelled to buy it. Rory, you okay, buddy? I have my dog. He's laying on the couch, and today is sort of the collision of all the scary things outside. We have somebody moving in. They are taking carpet out of an apartment unit, which is terrifying, apparently, and then the landscapers are here for the apartment complex, so poor little guy. But anyway, I digress. So the next object I have is a hoe. It's a half object, and I actually started these day before yesterday. And here's the half object. These are the Quick and Bulky Mittens by Amy Pelletier, or Amy Pelletier. I don't know how you say her name. And they too are covered in corgi here. That's awesome. So And these are the quick and bulky mittens, as I mentioned. They are worked up in Malabrigo Rasta. I had bought a skein of Rasta thinking I was going to make a cowl for either my mom or my aunt for Christmas, and it just didn't happen. But I had seen on Pinterest a pair of bulky mittens, and this isn't the pattern I found on Pinterest, but um, because I couldn't find that, the link was broken, as with so many pins that happens to. So I went on Ravelry and found this, and I really like it. Free pattern, super simple, 1x1 rib at the bottom, really easy construction. These work up so fast. I cast on, I'll show it to you in a second. I cast on the second mitten like maybe 2.5 hours ago, and I have certainly not been working on it for 2.5 hours, and it's in pretty good shape. So here is the first mitten. Oh, this is Archangel, by the way. This is Malabrigo Archangel in the Rasta, which is their bulky or super bulky weight. And I have found recently that I have just really been enjoying bulky Aran weight, heavier weight yarn. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that like the big needles are so nice after you've been working with smaller needles for so long, or if it's like the kind of stitch definition that you get when you're working with it. I don't know, but it's really fun. I love the way that those stitches look. And it is super warm. I mean, it's so warm. Like, I think these are going to be great. My only concern with these is that I think the Rasta is like a single. It's a single that has a little bit of twist put into it. And I'm a little nervous because I know single ply yarns tend to pill up a bit. But it's knit at a very tight gauge. This is a super bulky yarn, and I used a 10.5 needle on it, whereas I would probably normally use like maybe a US 12 or something like that. So it's knit pretty tightly, so maybe that'll help, but I'm smitten. I think they're so fun. So that's the first one. And then the second one, as I mentioned, I cast it on just a little while earlier, and before I filmed, I just finished the Kitchener. Here's my lovely lime green stitch holder. So here is that one. I haven't tried this one on nearly as much as I've tried this one on, so it hasn't gotten stretched out as much. But the only kind of weird thing about these mittens is that really, probably if I were to make them again, the decreases at the top I'd probably change, but also I'd probably write it out to where you had a left and a right mitten, because right now it's written where they're both, it's sort of like one mitten fits both hands. But I don't know if you can see this, but when you're actually knitting it, the thumb is turned more so it looks like it's a right hand mitten. So it kind of makes it a little awkward on the left hand, but I think it'll be okay. But I'm really pleased with them. I think they are turning out well. So really all I have left to do is to do the thumb, which won't take me very long at all, and weave in the ends. So that is really fun. I just like how beautiful that is. This is not a superwash merino. It is just 100% regular merino, so that's fine. It'll just have to be kind of hand soaked. But I love Malabrigo's colorways. I think are so rich and so nice. They're not an indie dyer, but I think for like a company, like they're probably one of my favorite dyers in terms of like a big company. They're really nice. I just love how rich the colors are, and I don't know how to describe it, but I think sometimes like I feel like they're really able to capture light, like sort of almost like the illusion of like, to me, their yarn reminds me a lot of stained glass for some reason. But it does. It just sort of has this very light quality to it, where you sort of get this idea that there's different amounts of light coming through. I don't know how else to describe it. Anyway, all that is to say, their dyeing is beautiful. They're one of my favorite yarn companies. So those are my quick and bulky mittens, or I think I'm calling them my quickie mitts on Ravelry. And I'm very proud of myself. Another goal I have this year is to be better at Ravelry. And so far I have stashed all my yarn. I don't have a huge stash because I'm always, trying to use it up or giving it away if it's something I'm not going to use. But I do have all my stash up now. And I've started project pages for just about everything that I have right now. So that's exciting. So go check that out on Ravelry. I do have a project page for the quickie mitts, and I'll try to remember to link that specifically in the show notes. So now for needle adjacent projects. I've got two, and I don't know that they're both going to become needle adjacent. As soon as I cast or bind off the last mitt and get the ends woven in, I'm going to let myself cast on a pair of socks. And some of this sort of rolls a little bit into stash enhancement. When I was home, I went back to Holly's yarn shop in Dallas, Texas, and when I went the last time, I picked up the Regia Fall Night by Arnie and Carlos, the design line, and I really wish that I had also purchased the Summer Night, because Summer Night's a little more my colors. But lo and behold, they still had it, so I picked up two skeins of the Regia Arnie and Carlos Summer Night, which is kind of teals and kind of pinky reds and that kind of colorway. So I'm either going to do another pair of Susan B. Anderson's vanilla sock recipe in this, or I purchased this at Warm and Fuzzy before probably early December, or I'm going to do the Skedaddle Socks by Lena of the Wee Bit Nitty podcast in this. And this is Fido Designs. I'm really sorry, there's their leaf blowing outside. You're okay, buddy. It's okay. They'll walk away shortly. Hopefully that's not too loud. Or they'll come closer. That's awesome. Okay. I think they're going away now. Sorry. So this is Fido Design Chaussette Base, which is an 80/20 merino nylon blend. And it's these beautiful corals and pinks and some purples. It's really messy, so it's kind of come apart a little bit, the skein has. But I think I'm going to do the Skedaddle Socks in that. So I'm just trying to decide which one I want to cast on at this point. Which one I'll be in the mood to cast on, I should say. So, and the Skedaddle Socks are the ones, they have like a little cable detail on the back. I think it's a square heel that they use, so it'd be a new heel technique, and a rounded gathered toe. Danny of Little Bobbins showed those way back when, and then she mentioned them again around Christmas time when she did that episode. So I'm all for learning new sock techniques. I think that'd be really fun. In terms of finished objects, I have one to show you, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about my Christmas knitting. While I was home in Texas, I took a skein of Fiber Story Core Bulky in the Sweetly colorway that I had also purchased in early December at Warm and Fuzzy. And I made a simple hat by Hannah Fettig. This is the third time I've made this hat pattern. The first time was in kind of a robin's egg blue. It was Blue Sky Alpaca's worsted. I think it was Lagoon, I think is the name of the color. So that was the first one, and then the second one I made for my sister's friend for Christmas. So this is my third one, and I really like it. I love how the colors turned out. Again, it's that big, bulky Aran, or a little heavier than Aran weight yarn, and I love it. It's just so satisfying. It's really satisfying to knit with. I'm not as happy with my top. I think I could have pulled it in a little bit tighter, but that's okay. I actually finished this in Dallas, got home, realized that it was really too short for my liking, and so sort of had my first experience cutting the yarn and ripping back from a finished project, reinserting the needles, and adding about another inch or so to make it a bit longer, because I kind of wanted to cover my ears when we're outside. So I just was wearing this earlier today when we were outside, so I really like it. It's very warm. It's a beautiful yarn. I love Fiber Story. I love her color choices, and it's just really, really nice. So, and it's so squishy. It's very bouncy, very squishy yarn. And the pattern is really easy. It's part of Hannah's Home and Away collection, if I didn't mention that. And she has it written, I think, for worsted, DK, sport, maybe fingering, I don't know, but all the way up to Aran or bulky. And I just love it. It works up so quickly, so quickly. So as I mentioned, I made one of those for my sister's friend Hannah. I made that one out of Osprey, Quince & Co. Osprey in the Icelandic colorway, so a nice light gray, and I put a big pom-pom on the top. And for hers, she kind of has more of a kind of, I don't want to say hipster, but kind of a more, relaxed style, so I made it kind of more slouchy. with the pom-pom. So hopefully she'll get somewhere out of that. She's Australian, so winter has not happened yet in Australia. So I made that. I finished my Patton's Croix stripy socks and gave those to my sister. And I finished the Fido Designs Blackberry Bramble socks that were kind of the plums, that colorway, and gave those to my mom. I think that was it for my knitting, I think, that I did for Christmas. But again, I'm so bummed that episode didn't really work out because I did have some really fun stuff, and I was showing Christmas decorations and all that kind of stuff. But oh well, we'll try again this year, right? So in terms of projects that are not going to make it, I apologize. I still feel like this is a very awkward episode. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. When I was home, I took... I'm going to hope and pray that he's going that way. We just had like epic moments of leaf blowing, so I do apologize. Anyway, what was I saying? So I remember now. When I went home to Dallas, I took with me my Felici teacup skeins to make some linden mitts because I figured that would be a good project because I knew the simple hat was not going to take that long. And I don't know, I think when I was initially reading the pattern, I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't take the right size needles, so that was the first problem. I think I was supposed to use size 3, and I only took size 1s. And then when I started the pattern, I didn't cast on the right number of stitches for the fingering weight. I cast on the right number of stitches for sport weight, but not for fingering. So it was fine, and I kind of, I hate it when I do this, and I've heard some people do this too, but you start a project and you know it's not right, but you keep thinking, maybe it'll work. And even up until just a few days ago, I thought, maybe it'll be okay when I soak it, superwash grows, but I'm just not happy with it. This is the mitt, and there are a few things. One, my Kitchener's all screwed up. 2, there are a few weird elongated stitches in here. But the biggest thing is it is tiny, like tiny, like not at all comfortable tiny. Like my fingers are so cramped. And then that thumb gusset, I know it's gonna pull, because it's already pulling some of the stitches. So I just have decided, I think after this episode, I'm gonna go on ahead and cut it and frog it, and either do the appropriate number of stitches, or I might make some socks out of this. We'll just kind of forego the mitten option for a bit. So I do like the colors though. My only complaint is I think some of the dyeing, where the dye is kind of leached into other areas, kind of makes the yarn look a little dirty, but it's okay. It's all right. So yeah, but anyway, I do really like the colors. I like the yarn. I just need to follow directions. So I might give the mitts another try, but I also might do something else with that yarn. So that was unfortunate, but I wanted to show it to you anyway. So the last little bit that I have for you, there won't be a whole lot about the shop in this episode, maybe in the next episode. I have some super exciting things planned for February and the spring and beyond, but I don't want to announce that just yet. So, I will say though, one exciting thing is that basically to clear inventory, everything right now, there's a coupon code in my shop announcement section. Everything, you can get 50% off of your order. So that's very exciting, just to kind of help get some of that stock moved out. Anyway, going on to the train of thought. Oh, this is so rough. I want to share just a few things I've acquired. So going back to Holly's, the yarn shop in Dallas. Last time I was there in September, I purchased some small sock blockers by Bryce Spun that are kind of more my foot size, but since I was knitting socks for my mom and my sister, I decided I needed a medium size because it's kind of more of a normal adult woman's shoe size. So, but I was trying to figure out how I was going to be able to quickly tell them apart. And I'm sure this is not new. I'm sure other people have done this too. But I decided to put a little dot of nail polish on the top. So these are the mediums. They have that kind of pink dot. And then on my smalls, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, I did a little Tiffany blue dot. So that way I can kind of look at them and immediately go, okay, those two go together and these two go together. And not have to like spend a lot of time laying them out side by side trying to figure out which one goes with which. So those are my sock blockers. I'm excited to use those. And then for Christmas, I got several books I want to share. I got 2 books by Hannah Fettig, the Knitbot Essentials, which of course has the famous featherweight and some other really darling little cardigans and accessories. And the one I'm particularly drawn to is the Wispy. I don't know if I can find one that doesn't have the pattern on it. You're going to be able to see that. But it's kind of cute. It's like almost like a combo between a shrug and a cardigan. I think it's really, really cute. So I'm excited to knit some things out of that. The other Knitbot book I got is Yoked. And I'm really excited. There's some really, really neat color work things. I'm definitely going to have to practice my color work, I think, before I do some of this. But I love the look of yoked sweaters. I just think that they're so attractive. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to make some things out of this. And then the last book, which I'm super excited about, is the well-known Sock Architecture by Laura Neal. And there's just, I mean, I'm overwhelmed by how many incredible sock making options there are in here. I'm really excited. I think I'm definitely going to have to pick out a few and try them to try to kind of enrich my sock making experience. So, that's it. I feel like this was kind of a weird, rambly episode still, even though I had show notes. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you sooner rather than later. But until next time, happy knitting, and I hope you have a great, productive week. Bye!